Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quarter Podcast. If you are a fan of ours, you'll know that we are a cricketing podcast from South Africa, talking all things domestic cricket, talking all things Proteas, boardroom stuff, on-field stuff, anything that has Proteas. We even talk to people from other parts of the world, overseas, who play in leagues where there are South African players. That's what we do here. And so if you're new, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, One World Sports Radio, on the podcast platform, or on X. If you are on X, like everyone else, and Elon Musk, please do follow us at the Full Quota Pod. We brought you yesterday the interview of Björn Hendricks, who is a recent One Day Cup winner with Western Province. Really great podcast. So if you've missed that, please go back and have a look at that. We'll be bringing you more content as the World Cup goes through. South Africa have an interesting week ahead. They play New Zealand. You'll be listening to this on Tuesday, so on Wednesday. And then they'll also play India on Sunday. So we'll be talking about that as well. Probably on Monday, we'll do a recap next week just to go through what I believe is the start of South Africa's World Cup. It was really great Friday night. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope everyone enjoyed Saturday. And now we're back into the business of everything else. And one of the key things, Tim, as we always talk about, is domestic cricket. And one of the key things that's starting this week, it actually started last week, Northern Cape Heat played the Eastern Storm in a 4-day game. And so the 4-day series has started. And one of our favorite teams, actually, no, if you go back and listen, may not be a favorite team, but I spoke about them a lot last season, Tim. The Itec Knights, new to Division 2, have decided to bring somebody in who's going to help them make sure that they secure that promotion spot for next season. But Tim, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. All good, mate.
Okay, cool. So, as we've spoken about, the Itec Knights have now decided to bring in some experience into that dressing room. Those kids were doing so well in the One Day Cup, but now they've realized they actually need to add a little bit more, Tim, just to make sure that, unlike the Northern Cape Heat last year who fell away at the end, they're like, actually, we don't want that to happen. So we're bringing in somebody in who's going to do it. And we're going to be talking about it. He made a lot of news last week in social media platforms with him returning. And so here he is. We've got the man himself. We've got Dane Piedt here to talk to us around his return, but also about his life, his career, and his time in the big continent of America. Dane, first question, were you surprised about how large America is?
Yeah, incredibly. I mean, flying across the country takes 6 hours. There's a lot of connecting flights. There's not a lot of direct flights. Driving takes between 30 minutes to 45 minutes. It's a huge country. So many people. I've never seen so many people in my life before. So, yeah, I mean, I'm from the Cape, so I'm adaptable.
Were you not envious at how they do sports that side? How there's always money, even in like lacrosse?
Yeah, extremely, actually in the process of setting up a players association out in the US and speaking to a couple of attorneys, they all about image rights, and that generates a lot of money. The women's football team actually went from earning an annual salary of between 60 to 100,000 US a year to making between 600 and 800,000 a year now. So I mean, just through image rights, and they just do sports differently. I've been to a couple of baseball games, basketball games. Unfortunately, not NFL yet, which is my favorite. But they just do it differently. The fan interaction is on another level. During commercial breaks, the rest of the world doesn't see what goes on, but there's just constant activity at the venue.
Tim and I are NFL fans, so the question is, which team do you support?
I'm a Baltimore Raven, through and through.
Wow!
Yeah.
That is, I didn't expect that. I honestly didn't expect that, but it's a great team. Lamar's doing a great job.
Flock Ravens, wow! Flock Ravens, flock. Yeah, I'm a big Baltimore Ravens fan. I've been funny enough, I've watched American sports. A lot of my friends know I love it. So I've watched since the Ray Lewis days.
Oh,
And I was
yes.
very, very happy that we secured our quarterback for this year, because if not, it would have been quite a dog show. They had a good win yesterday. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big Ravens fan, and I've been for quite some time. And Boston Celtics in the NBA.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. I'm a Celtic. I'm on the other side. I'm not the glitz and glam. I'm the blue collar. I'm the blue collar guy.
Blue collar guy. Always.
I'm an off spinner. I'm not a fast bowler.
Oh my word! I would have said you're not those wrist spinners, not leg spinners. You are.
Yeah, no flair.
Those guys are.
I'm a hard worker.
So Dane, let's start. So my thing is this: throughout my cricket watching life, you've been quite a very. I am quite old, but you've been quite a mainstay in South African domestic cricket. You've been in and around the Proteas setup. You've cemented yourself at one point as the best spinner in the country. And I think I always ask our guests this, but how did you get into cricket?
Those were kind words. Thank you very much. So for me, I'm a footballer through and through. I've never really wanted to play any form of cricket. I was a massive Roy Keane fan growing up. I'm unfortunately a Man United supporter at the moment. So for me, I always wanted to be a footballer. I didn't want to mess with any cricket. My grandfather, who passed away, I think it was in the late 60s or early 70s, if I'm not mistaken, was a left-arm spinner. And my grandmother, thankfully, still alive. She's 96 years old. And she always speaks about stories of him playing and, looking in the newspaper the next morning and seeing his results. My dad never played cricket. He was a baseballer. And my father always said growing up, you're not going to play any football. I want you to play cricket because I think you could potentially become a better cricketer. And I played it just for the fun, the friendships and all of those type of things. And eventually,
Tim, is it?
You have a pause.
Okay.
Yes. We've got you back now. You were just going through your upbringing and interested in cricket after your father persuaded you that cricket was the one to follow before we lost you.
I can hear you.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
all good now.
Yeah. No. So getting back. I mean, my father said you can be a better cricketer, and I just played for the fun of it, and then I think that the game really turned, or for me, it really turned when I was 18, and I went to the Khai Majola week in 2008, I think it was, when I matriculated, and that's when cricket really. I got into cricket. Funny enough, and it's funny enough because in 1998 I watched Sakleen Mushtaq tour South Africa, and he's my he's my idol. Grew up watching him bowl all the time. Yeah.
Oh,
so Sakleen Mushtaq was really the guy, and I didn't bowl spin up until the age of 14, and and then from that times I started watching Sakleen, and then YouTube came about and all of those, and then I caught on to watching him when I started bowling him, and then my mentor coming up from the age of 17 was Paul Adams, and we spoke about how much I love Sakleen, and then the cricket bug hit me, fortunately or unfortunately, and I chose the hardest craft, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's how cricket sort of came on. And I always appreciate the game because it's not the sport that I wanted to play. And I'm here, so that's why I enjoy it as much as I do. And funny enough, I've made a career from it.
I love that.
Yeah,
I just love how Sakleen Mushtaq and Paul Adams are totally different bowlers to you, but somehow they are your inspiration. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's for me. It was like I watched Sakleen, and Then the 99 World Cup, we got the hat-trick against Zimbabwe. Tommy Mbango was actually in the mix for that hat-trick. He was the one. He didn't see the Doosra. And for me, it was like Saklein, and then Harbhajan came along. And then, and then it died. It died for a long time, but Harbhajan, kept it going for a while. And then Ashwin came along. And then Graham Swan came along. And then it just kept going and going. And then, fortunately, for a period of my career, I was one of the off spinners in the world,
Yes.
And that's the cool part about this craft, because you see kids wanting to take up off spin, and it's not easy, but you need to have you need to have a lot of heart, which I do. I was brought up to have a lot of heart and be confident, and thankfully I am.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah. You talk there about, and I think that is important. I think your character, your fighting spirit, I think, had a lot to do with your success. But spin bowling is a difficult art. Spin bowling, whether it's leg spin, off spin, it's a difficult thing to do. Who were your not role models, but who were your best coaches coming up through the system who just kept you at it when times were tough, that motivated you to make sure that you stayed on the right path and didn't lose interest, so to speak?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest influence in my cricket from a young age, where I was 16 years old at SACS, the greatest school in South Africa.
Wow,
and the oldest school in South Africa. By the way.
I'll give you oldest, but not the greatest.
He's the greatest. If you Google, no, they're definitely not. If you Google Peter Kirsten holds the most double hundreds in first class cricket, he went to that school. So he was actually my coach at SACS,
wow.
and so for that period, he was very influential in the way that I approached cricket, because coming from his professional background, he sort of groomed me into that. He made me captain at a young age of the high school team, and he was an influence in my career. I've had quite a few, and then after the Kaya Majola week, Rashid Lewis was the coach of Western Province B when I made my debut. It was still called, and he was the coach of the under 19 team, and he sort of gave me confidence in learning. And then from that age, Paul Adams became my mentor. Worked on our bowling actions and those type of things, and that's a person that I still communicate with on a regular basis about spin bowling, because spin bowling is really important from there's small things that you need to work on. And then when I got to the national team, Claude Henderson was really good. And funny enough, I made my first class debut with Claude Henderson in the very same team. And then that sort of relationship built. So the people I've played with along the way, they became more conversation holders than mentors. The only real mentor was Paul Adams for a period of my career, where I still rate him as one of the better guys working on a spin bowling point of view, because it's a long, deep conversation that we constantly have about how we can improve and how you can get better. Because even me at 33 years old, you still learn constantly every day, and some say the prime of your career. I just say it's a time of your life that you listen a bit better than you do at 21 or 22. It's not the prime,
Yes, it's all foggy when you're younger.
Yes.
There's so many voices, whereas now you can isolate and
definitely.
Yeah, I love that. The prime. Have you found that obviously over time with the advent of T20 and all these leagues around the world, have you found that spin bowling's become a lot more important? My dream always was to have South Africa play not necessarily test matches, but I still think it could work, but to play all their limited overs cricket with two spinners. You always need to go in
me
with
too.
two.
Me
I always
too.
felt that you need that, but it's only happening now.
I still cry when Shams is left out of the team, to be honest, because he's one of my favorite spin bowlers in South Africa. So regardless of the conditions, I think you got to take that risk. But unfortunately, from pre-apartheid era to post-apartheid era, we just breed big, strong human beings. Yeah, regardless of the color of their skin, we just produce that. And you look at Lungi Anna's a very good friend of mine, and my first SAA roommate, to Gerald Coetzee, who played at the MLC against, to Marco Jansen, to all of these guys are just coming through. And I mean, I even forgot KG, but KG is one of the old dogs, but he's like 22 years old still. But it's just crazy what we produce. So we're always going to favor that. But the way that, I mean, a guy like Keshav has bowled over the years, a guy like the way that Simon Harmer's bowled over the years, the way that Shamsi's bowled over the years, Bjorn
Don't leave
Fortuyn,
yourself out of that list, please.
George Linder. My grandmother would slap me if I speak about myself. But the way that Bjorn Fortuyn has bowled over the years, then you go further down, the Junaid Dawoods. There's a lot of spinners coming through, you know, and it's all white ball focused, which is good in my opinion, you know, because you always have that old school kind of spinner in the test team, you know, that has a bit more experience, that's played 100 first class games. Those are the guys that will always be around the test environment. So yeah, I'm always a bit frustrated when Shams is left out, but thankfully I don't have to sit in that selection meeting.
Yeah. So,
I brought this up when we spoke to Prenelin Subrian at the beginning of the season. I said there's a lot of spinners in domestic cricket at the moment. But I said, is that transferring into Proteas selection? And he was adamant. He said it's not. He said it should be, but it's not. We're not getting the backing. So the backing is stopping once we're playing for domestics, and then there's nothing. I know you've been a bit out the last couple of years, but was that the case when you were playing? Did you feel that was the space for one, and then sorry, but there's no space for anybody else?
It's a fantastic question. I've had this conversation after being away for 3 years, and people's come back to me and speaking about how was your time. At the end of the day, it's always difficult because if you look at the era that I played in, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of change in our test team, a lot of retirements, a lot of guys finding their feet. And, you know, the mainstay was probably Dean Alger in that environment, you know. A good friend of mine too, but if you look at the other consistency, there wasn't much, you know, besides QDK, who did pretty well, but everyone's finding their feet. It's going to take some time. And I just felt like we didn't score enough runs to bowl at. You know what I mean? And that's just the unfortunate thing, because it's easy. I can say that now because it is in the stats. You can see it in the stats. And that is certain things. So every nation has gone through that, you know. Post Shane Warne, how many spinners did they go through? And then you look at the batting lineups that have changed over the years. People do retire, you know, and it's just sometimes you find yourself in a position where, yes, you are playing for the country, you're trying your best, but sometimes you need something different, you know, just to take you over the line. And it's always easy, Tim, because, like I say, the conditions are favorable to fast bowling out of how many nations? England, Australia, maybe, South Africa, where else is favorable for New Zealand, maybe for fast bowling. So 4 out of the maybe 55 to 60% is favorable to fast bowling, to spin bowling for the rest of the world in the test playing championship. So we're always going to favor to go that way because it's a easy way to, you know, look after winning cricket matches, you know. Yes. And then when you get to the subcontinent, to sort of scramble to be like, oh, who am I going to take now? You know, because we need another spinner. Are we going to try to, the Otis Gibson era, try to get the ball to reverse swing in Sri Lanka? And Keshav getting nine wickets, you know. So those
and Shamsi playing one game, getting a bag, and then not playing again.
Exactly. So it's always like there's never going to be consistency with a second spinner. So you try too hard, you try to find your feet, you go on tour, you don't play, you go to domestic cricket, you're playing at the Wanderers, your second game's at Centurion, you come to Durban, and they're like, now why are you taking wickets at Durban, but the first 2 weekends you didn't? But I'm like, boss, I played at Centurion, I played at the Wanderers. Let me find my feet. What role do you want me to play? Those are the type of discussions that's not happening with spin bowling. But again, all the managements, all of those type of things, people get added to the management. But when you go to the subcontinent, there's no spin bowling coach. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the small things that people don't get to see, you know. And then they always criticize the spin bowling. But the way it looks now, it's in healthy hands. I mean, there's a lot of guys bowling spin.
Yeah. But funny enough, if you looked at even in that period where we were going through the turmoil, it was you, it was Sean van Berg, it was George leading wicket takers. And then when you left, Simon was like, I'm back, taking a clump of wickets. And it's always fascinating that in a country that produces a lot of fast bowlers, in our domestic cricket, you guys are always up there, putting up your hands.
We're always the top wicket takers in the country. And then again, people will say, because I get absolutely annihilated on Twitter for people are always abusing me on my skill, and I quite enjoy it because people are really serious about the cricket, which is good,
Yes.
And my job is for people to see in the world, South Africans to see. Their jobs are quite not, but my job is. So you're allowed to say what you think about my. So I've seen everything. How the people abuse me on what's it called now, X or something.
X.
Yeah. So, but myself, I know what I've done in my career, and I know what I've done, and I know how tough it is for spin bowlers in South Africa. And then the next question is always, is the spin bowling good in South Africa, or can the batters not play spin? Because when Dane goes to India, Rohit Sharma takes him apart. He gets hit for 11 sixes in a test series, or his economy rate is 6 and over. So that's the next question that goes on. But then I'm like, it's not only me. It's guys. I'm not the only one doing well. It's Simon Harmer that's in the top wicket.
Yes.
There's Pranay and Subrine. We forgot about Senior and Mutasamy. We forget about Sean van Berg.
There was a point where I thought our domestic cricketers did not know how to pick you guys off your hands. That's all I thought. I was like,
that's the question. So how are we getting better? Do the batters need more exposure to spin bowling? Because the spin bowlers are delivering in maybe favorable conditions. Bjorn Fortuin gets 9 wickets in a 4-day game at the Wanderers, but the Wanderers doesn't spin, right? That's what the people say. So where do we need to find? Is it again the bowlers, catching a bit of flack for, bowling well, but the conditions are favorable to to something. So there's always going to be that question, which I quite enjoy. I'm an honest guy. I say what's in my mind. I say what's in my mind.
I love it. So let's go to that. Let's go to the Proteas. Your time in the Proteas. When you got that call up, obviously, as you said earlier, you were, I don't want to say a reluctant cricketer, but I'd say maybe you stumbled into it and you actually found and you enjoyed it and you grew into the game and you became a professional. When you got that Proteas call up, taking on a bit of what Tim says, right? Obviously, spinners don't get, and you're in the era of Robbie Peace coming in. Now you've got this new group of guys. And you step yourself up. How was it? Like, what's that emotion when you get the call up and you say?
I think it's incredible because you're 24 years old. You just played your first major part of your season because Robbie P was called up to the national team.
Yes.
You play 8 matches and you take 43 wickets in a domestic year as a 24-year-old. But you're literally just bowling. You're not just you're thinking, but you're just bowling. You're trying to execute your skill. And then you just get the call from Andrew Hudson at the time. Shit, and now I'm sounding old.
No, we're all old. It's fine.
He was the convener of selectors at the time, and it's almost 9. Yeah, it's 9 years ago. And he called me. I'll never forget. I just got a new dog. I was busy mopping the floor after he relieved himself. And I get the call from a number I don't know, and I answer the call, and he's like, "Hey, Dane, you had a great domestic year, and we want to take you, loads of clarity. We want to take you as the backup spinner to Sri Lanka. We know JP's there, but we want to invest in the future to give you a taste of how international cricket is. And the rest is history, And like you say, it's a reluctant cricketer, maybe to a certain extent, but then you see how your family react to the news. And then that's when you realize the impact you have and, just growing up and telling your parents you want to do this for a living or that for a living. And then you sort of reach the pinnacle of your job, As I like to tell the young guys, I want to make you I want you to be able to feel like you got a PhD in cricket, I want you to reach the pinnacle. I want you to be a test cricketer, because how many people? Only 100 and odd have played for South Africa,
I think
So
we're at 110 now.
yeah, could be. And
Yes.
that's when the next level you sort of think to yourself like, oh, I've actually made an impact on my family. And then, my colored community, because it's like Paul Adams and, Robin Peterson and then myself, it's like you make an impact bigger than you actually think it was, of like you're just living your life. But then there's kids, in the hood trying to bowl like Dane because he's the guy that I can relate to, because I just saw him walking down the street the other day. So that for me was the biggest thing for my career. And when people recognize you for doing that within the community, it makes it even better, and the people you represent. Because like Francois Pina said in '95, we didn't have 60,000 people, we had 60 million. So you represent a bigger platform than you actually think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you view it, because it is about representing the rest
100%.
more than the 11, and it puts perspective into, playing in games where you're up against the better side, but you understand
Yes.
that you just need to give your best, right?
Yes.
And because I look at that, so for me, you speak of that India tour, right, Rohit and everything else, and I look at that and I'm like, you guys were on a learning curve. Everything was up in the air. It was one of the most unorganized tours I've experienced as a Proteas supporter. And I was just in the media at that time. So I was sitting there going, I don't understand why we allowed this to happen in the first place. And it felt like they let you guys out, hung you guys out to dry. But there were moments in that tour. Like I'll look at
for sure.
I'll look at Sin's debut and the wickets and then the runs, and you're like, yeah. And then the fact that the team
I got
drew that.
By the way, I got a 50 by the way in that test match.
Yes, that 56. And I'm sitting there going, it's those moments where people will necessarily forget, but I was like, those moments are actually what would tell me who's actually good enough to play Test cricket. Because I sat there going, it's guys who understand the value of that spot. Of yes, it's not a great tour. Yes, it's
Dean and Kwani getting hundreds. Dean and Kwani getting hundreds in Vizag, KG bowling pretty well on a flat pitch. It's moments like that. I mean, you speak about Andrik Nortje was unleashed on that tour in Pune.
Exactly.
It went tough for him, but he's come good eventually. And those are the learnings. Lungi playing in the last test match. I mean, the unfortunate thing is we South African, we try our best, and
like winning.
Trust me, we try. We literally
you gave it your all, and I
Yeah.
think that's what people forget. Will never, in a loss, everyone thinks you didn't give your best, but it was in that series when I realized actually it's really hard being a sportsman.
Yeah,
you're up against the best team in the world.
Enoch was the interim coach at the time.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, caretaker, whatever they call it.
My word, And to a certain extent, you kind of felt like, oh, guys, but these guys are actually giving their all. Yeah. It's just everything else wasn't working for them. But yeah, I love that the clarity that you have around that the Proteas badge, because not many have it. But yeah,
no. I mean, a few.
Go on.
No. Go ahead. No. You go.
I've been dying to speak to somebody who was at that Forrest Cutler test match in India, and that test match where Hashim Amla made 25 of 220 balls, and Abel Villiers made 43 of about 300.
Yeah.
I've grown up reading about sticky wickets and really difficult pitches. I like reading about that. That pitch for me was so foreign to what I've experienced before or after. Just tell me, what was it like playing on that pitch, particularly in the second innings?
Yeah, I played in that test match. I was brought in for the last test match because that was after my shoulder reconstruction when I got back into the test team. And I remember the morning of the test match, we're going to be as South African as we're going to be today, boys. We're going to fight as hard as we can in foreign conditions. It's been a tough tour for everyone. We're on the back foot. We really need to play our best. And Hashim said he'll lead from the front by defending every ball as hard as he can. I remember Temba also got called up for that test match, opened the batting, played pretty well too. I think he got a 40 odd. But yeah, that was incredible because the Feroza Kotla at the time in Delhi, it was, or still is, the way it's shaped, either side is quite high. So you're constantly seeing people in the eye line, there's constant movement. It was, I know Mumbai do this regularly where they bring in the kids on a Saturday afternoon game in the IPL. They had the kids come in from Delhi. So it was quite noisy. It was constantly noisy. And just facing Ravi Ashwin and Jadeja, constantly coming at you. And it's just a test of the nutrition, because you got to be solid in your defense. You got to be clear out of everything, and I think we did pretty well, to be honest, because we just didn't fold and give in, because that was a tough tour. And, just the way that Hashim defended the ball, it felt like you guys wouldn't know, but probably seen videos on social media when there's rain delays. We play this tennis ball game in the dressing room where you got to defend the ball. If it bounces,
very low down, yes.
Yeah, you get a one and one bounce, and Hashim was defending the ball right in front. There's so many short legs, some choice words from the Indians. It just adds to that moment of like, oh, okay, so this is what it's all about, because it felt like going back all the way to 2014, where we defended out the test match against Sri Lanka on my first test tour, and I just turned to a very good friend in Morne Morkel, and I told him, this is not the Sunfoil series in Itec Knights trying to block out the game. I had a headache. I was stressed, and I had a bib on the whole day. I had an Adidas bib on the whole day. I wasn't in part of the test match, but just the stress of, the Sri Lankans were bowling 24 overs an hour. That's 10 overs over the average, 11 overs over the average.
It's constantly batting.
So those are the moments that, yes, the public don't see, but that's the moment that, because they'll always say, yeah, Dane bowled badly, or oh, we did this to Dane, or whatever. But those are the moments that I appreciate the most of my test career, because the public, unfortunately or fortunately, don't get to experience that, and every kid and every person that's wanted to play, you were part of that, and you can actually say, that was pretty cool, to experience that. Yes, we might have let down the country, but from a personal, when you're just slightly selfish about your achievements in your life, I'll rather appreciate that than taking a 5-wicket haul, because those are the stories that you can tell someone that hasn't experienced it. Because a guy that chirps me on X takes a 5 wickets on the club game, so he feels how it is to take 5 wickets. Yes, it's not test level, but he's still taking 5 wickets. But just the emotions of everything, taking in everything, because at the time South Africa was #1 test team in the world in 2016. We did relinquish that, but it's all of those things you take into consideration. It's not just you facing the ball, So that's what makes it cool for me.
Yeah, and speaking about growth, I think traveling is one of the best ways to grow and to learn about the world. What brought up the decision for you to leave on a high, I might add, CSA 4-day Player of the Year, to go to the States and to go and play there? I know all our fans have listened to Nate speak about your move, and it was at the time one of the biggest moves for minor league cricket in America. But what brought that about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of to a certain extent, I'm a bit of a maverick, and these type of things that come out, and you want to be the first of, trying to contribute to something that's big. But at the time of my career, after that, I just needed something new, something different, because I was at the Cobras for 10 years. It was being captain for the 5 years before that. Also, it was a lot. And spoke to my wife. I got a DM on Instagram from Rusty, the former fast bowler, and he was like, "Listen, they're starting this big competition." I jumped on a call, and the rest is history, And then COVID happened. I was stuck in South Africa for 6 months, no pay, by the way. So it's not all glamorous. And then October, actually yesterday, it's the 3 years since I landed in the US. And yeah, I mean, it was big because Corey Anderson signed, then I signed, and then after that, a lot of players saw that it's actually quite genuine. And Sami Aslam signed from Pakistan, and then eventually, the likes of Liam Plunkett came in, and then all our South African boys came into the country. So yeah, I mean, it literally came through a DM. Spoke to my wife. I got.
We're losing Dane a little bit. Just give him a moment. Yeah.
We good?
Yes, we're good now. Yes.
We're good. We're good again. All good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so that's basically where it ended. And then gone to the consulate, got my visa, and yeah, the rest is history.
Wow.
But I left with my wife and we came back with a bit of baggage, an American citizen.
Hey!
So yeah, I got a boy. Who's a year and a half old. Yeah, thank you. A year and a half years old. A full-on American citizen now because he's born there. So yeah, life has been good. It's given me a lot of perspective, real perspective. You sort of grow up in the sense of you playing cricket, you're aggressive, you want to do things, you want to play a certain way, and then you see your offspring there. You play with a different mindset now. And that's given me a lot more perspective and a lot more clarity of what I want to do for the rest of my career. Because I still think I'm pretty young. Because my boy definitely keeps me young. You might see a couple of grey hairs, but he does keep me young.
That's great. Children are a blessing, so it's amazing that you have definitely. America's next biggest cricketing sensation right there.
MLB.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's 500 million. That's 500 million for 10 years if they're good.
Well, if he's Bryce Harper, yes.
Yeah. He's my offspring. What do you think he's going to be? He's not going to be 200,000. He's going to be 500 million.
500 million. Yes, we love that. Yeah. So how? Yes, Tim. Yes.
I was just going to say, how important is Major League Cricket for the country? So I've watched a lot of the minor stuff, but because I've watched the minor, I see the transformation. Just take us, how important is that for America?
It's the most important thing in the country. I mean, the way it was run, the way it was, I don't know. You guys would have a better way of the way it looked to the public, but I think it's the most important thing for the USA cricket. And then certain things like the Major League happening creates a buzz, but the bigger buzz comes from under 19s qualifying for the World Cup. And that just shows it's just not, expats and foreigners playing the game that's trying to make it big, but there's some local boys that's born and bred in the US that's qualifying for a big ICC event, and that for me is why it is important, because when I retire, people are not going to speak about me, I'm going to be done with the game, but it's what happens afterwards, the sort of, the ecosystem in different parts. Yes, they don't get me wrong. There are major teething issues that we need to sort out, facilities, all of those type of things. But that will come with time if the right people invest, which the right people have invested in the team owners, etc. And that's how the game will eventually grow in the US. Listen, boys, there is a big amount of talent in the country. Yeah. I've seen it, and it's the big Southeast Asian population there, and it's big. It just needs to be groomed in the right way. Yes, there's like every board, there's a bit of ego here and there. There's a bit of power seeking here and there. But once you get over that hurdle, eventually, I hope so, it's only going to go from strength to strength.
My biggest fear is the USA making the men's World Cup, and the moment they do that, we're all in trouble.
Yes, definitely.
We saw with Sevens rugby.
That country, money.
We said with Sevens rugby how competitive they are, and it's
money in that country.
Yeah, and I know the ICC wants to tap into it, and they should.
Yes.
Yes, Tim?
I was just going to say, I spoke to Shudley a couple of years ago, and he said, Tim, there's still a lot of talent in South Africa, but in America, there is enormous talent. Just
yeah. You shouldn't be surprised. It's big talent. You know, the big tech industry provides that. You know, the offspring is, and parents love cricket. They absolutely love cricket. So that's why it's easy to make the transition. The kids know about it. They grow up with it. So yeah, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, and yeah, because I think from my end, when I watched Major League Cricket, it looked like a product that was early stage. I wasn't worried about the crowds. I think a lot of people were speaking about crowds, and I was like, no, it's not about that. It's about the fact that they've got the best players in the world into America. And America outside of cricket is a beautiful place to be. And it's going to bring in more people. I'm waiting for the first Indian cricketer to fight the BCCI and say, actually, I want to go have a 2-week holiday in America.
Let's hope it's Virat Kohli.
It could be, right? So, but that there's an argument that maybe even after this World Cup, if they do win it, he could do whatever he wants, but he could then say, no, cut my contract. I've given you a World Cup. Let me go.
I've done it all.
Yeah,
the scheduling of the Major League next year will be crucial because that's who you can sort of lure into playing, you know, and that if they get the scheduling right for Major League, we could see even better talent coming in, not turning down the likes of Andre Russell, Kieron Pollard, Marcus Stoinis, all the guys that came in. You know, it's only going to get bigger and better.
Yeah, and that's what we want. But on to more pressing matters. Dane, you return back to the Itec Knights, to a team we never thought we'd think you'd play for.
Me too. Me too.
Western Province is having a homecoming right now, and you're missing.
Yeah, it was close.
Yeah,
it was very close. It was very close. Let me tell you that it was very close. But yeah, I'm here in Bloem Vegas. As they say.
Yes, but what brought you back? Like I thought you would go play for America at age 35, maybe see if you can't make that World Cup.
Yeah. No, I would have qualified to play right now. But there's not a lot of people I would have. There's not a lot of people I would have done this for. And you know, the guy messaged me a couple of months ago, and it wasn't Rob Walter. He messaged me and he was like, "Listen, New Zealand with a question mark," and I was like, "What about it?" I did use a couple of choice words when I said that and I was like, "What you on about?" And he was like, "No, I'm being dead serious. The SA20 is going on," and I didn't know about the logistical hoo-ha, as they say. And I was like, "Are you for real?" He's like, "Yeah, but there's obviously, you know, talks of it," and he said, "Get yourself a team, and we can see from there." And then it literally happened. JP Trichard spoke to me about JP Trichard came, and like 5 minutes later, he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." It all happened very, very quickly. That's why at the moment I'm in South Africa and my wife and my son's in America. Because we still have some admin stuff to sort out, and it happened. And just the stage of my career, I mean, I didn't really want to turn it down, you know, because like you say, I left during COVID and I didn't get an opportunity to, you know, just appreciate playing and doing all my hard work that I had for 10 years to play in South Africa. I mean, I have 400 first-class wickets at the age of 29 when I stopped playing, you know.
Yes.
And for me, that was like, I didn't get an opportunity to, you know, sort of say bye. I've always thought I would be a one-club man. And, you know, when the Knights came, guys like Lotley Sisele have been around. JP I've worked with at the SAA level. Gian Klute I've played with. Aubrey Swanepoel I know really well. And then this morning, I you know, went through the room and I was like, this is incredible. The young kids and, you know, the guys were running their stats off. And I was like, these guys are, you know, they're the real deal, you know, and the mindset that they're in, you know, and wanting to compete and wanting to learn in the space of the 2 hours that I was at the ground today. I was like, this is impressive. And, you know, what they're trying to build for me. And why I sort of wanted to come here, it's like, I've always felt like it's important to pass on what you've learned, because when I say, we're representing a lot of people out there, you need to leave some information with the next generation. It's pointless keeping it in and then you walk away from the game, and it's kind of selfish. So that's why the project also, there's a lot of spinners around here too that I'm going to help, and yeah, that's it. So I had to find a team to play domestically in order to become eligible again, which I'm going to do. We start on Thursday. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to playing again. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind couple of months, to be brutally honest with you. But I'm happy that I've made that decision, and my wife was really supportive about my decision to come, and yeah, I jumped straight onto it.
It's kind of like a Last Dance type of vibe. But
yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, there was a IG post that I put the IG post out, and then Corey Anderson commented, put the goat there with MJ. Yeah, with MJ. And then I actually texted. We become really good friends over this time. We obviously knew each other, but we become really good friends. And then I actually texted saying, "What do you think? Should I wear number 45?"
Oh no! Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
But then he was like, "Nah." He was like, "Nah, Jordan wasn't that good when he wore 45."
No,
so
he
yeah,
wasn't.
I mean, it's come back. It's sort of like the last dance, just to sort of appreciate playing in South Africa again, because if you're not South African, you don't realize how tough first-class cricket is in this country. From a point of view of, getting people out, because the talent is here. Guys, the talent is here.
Yeah.
There's loads of talent, even in this group.
It's always been there. It's just about giving the exposure. That's always been there.
There we go.
I think you're gonna like the Knights, Dane. I think you're gonna like it there. They've got a nice squad of players. They did really well in the One Day Cup.
Very, very.
Dion Forrester. If you watch him in the nets, he's a real talent.
I've heard good things about him.
Yeah, he's a real talent. So yeah, what are your future goals, so to speak? Are you looking too much ahead, or are you just taking day by day and just seeing what your performances do?
Yeah, I mean, I told Mpho earlier, earlier I referred to, just, the perspective of things and how you sort of approach things. When I was younger, I wanted, like every young kid, you want things to happen for you. You want things right now. But for me, it's not about that. I just take it day by day now, because your mind is at a different level, or my mind's at a different level of, just trying to compete, just trying to bowl the best ball I can, the very next ball. And at the start, you want the 5 wickets, you look at the 5 wickets, but you don't appreciate the process. And for me, I've started to appreciate the process a lot more. I'm not as young as I used to be, so I approach the game in a different mindset. I take it a lot slower. More methodical approach in how you want to do things. I've always been a deep thinker when it comes to the game. I've always showed a bit of leadership, but now it's trying to get all of those things together and trying to execute to the best of the ability. Because fortunately, I like it, but sometimes to other guys, unfortunately, there's a bit of expectation on you now, right? So there's guys in the team saying, "No, how did he play for South Africa? How did he get this? Was he lucky? Was it because he's a colored guy because they needed another person of color in the team?" Or, so there's always going to be the thing of, "Oh, okay, I need to actually go out there and show these guys, this is what I'm about, and this is what the expectation is to play the next level. Because it's my responsibility to do it. It's no one else's responsibility. It's my responsibility." So I know that, and I appreciate that responsibility. So yeah, just take it day by day, see where it goes, and hopefully, things go in the right direction.
I think you come at a time where South African cricket is at a bit of a crossroads, right? I think domestic cricket's at its lowest it's been.
Yes, but it's important.
Yes, but I do think the whole let's split our cricket into 2 divisions will present an opportunity, and you're joining a franchise that recently got relegated, right? So they're also rebuilding, and having you play in Division 2 adds so much quality to the play in Division 2. Now we can then say, because if you do end up in New Zealand, right, you'd be the first Division 2 player in this new system to be in the Proteas team, right? And Tim and I have watched a lot of Division 2 games, and there's some talent down there. The question has always been, oh, is the bowling good enough? Is this and so you come in that, but also you come in a situation where I think the South African test side has a chance to do something that none of the big threes have done. Okay, New Zealand have done. Is to make that World Test Championship. And we need guys who, at this point in time, yes, are not aligned with SA20, but guys who can make us competitive and win us games. And I don't know what happened to all the spinners in the country, but they're all taken. And when I heard this last week, I was like, yes. Now someone's thinking, right? Largely around, you then say, okay, fine, one part of the team is covered, or we've got, if we can then find equal or better quality in the other, if we can be competitive, we can hold it.
Well, I hope
And
Tony
I've always
DeZorzi
said,
and David Bedingham will be there.
well, if that's the case, Tim's going to be a very happy man because he wants to see David Bedingham back.
I'm speaking of the Province boys now, but Dane Patterson's available too.
No, and rightfully so. He's had the most incredible summer in the UK, and to a certain extent, it's like a homecoming, right? And it's also like a last dance for a lot of the guys there. But here's my thing: you never know. Just like how your career just started and you just kept on going because you were good. You never know what this opportunity will bring as he comes back.
We hope. Yes.
Dane, we're back. Yeah, we've got you back. But what I'm saying is this opportunity, can you hear us?
Dane? Can you hear us? No.
I think just refresh
hear us?
and then come back.
No, he can't.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Tim just send him a message, but he can refresh and then he can come back. Let's unmute you.
Got you.
Yes. Perfect. We've got him. Yeah. Well, guys, it's the joys of podcasting in 2023. What I'm saying is this opportunity, you never know where this opportunity will take you.
Yeah.
And your career has always been about taking that opportunity and being able to do that. And to a certain extent, I said this on previous podcasts before, we just need somebody to say, I don't want to play SA20, I want to go play for the Proteas. Yeah. And if we can get a few of those guys, even if it's former Proteas, it eases the burden. And if you lose, that's fine too. But when the country called you guys were there. And I have the utmost respect for that. And to a certain extent, also have the utmost respect that you chose to go to a Division 2 side. One that last season, they were just on a hiding to nothing. It was, and I know Coach JP was new in his role, and I don't know what's going on in the back room, but the fact that they've managed to turn it around in less than 2 months in the start of the new season. I
can tell you, an environment is more important than the talent you have in the room. And I mean, the talent I've seen in this, the environment and how comfortable people are around each other. Our country is made up of so many different races, and the way that people have integrated has made me, so happy and proud of these guys. Because for me, an environment is more important than any other thing in the world, and that's why they've done this well, and it makes sense why they've done this well.
Yes, and to a certain extent, they had even, like, I would say, slightly better quality last year, but we were all sitting around going, this year you had all these youngsters hanging around, and you chose not to play them. But essentially, that's what it is, and so I'm glad it's turned around, and I look forward to watching you on YouTube rip people apart.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope not to disappoint you.
Are you gonna go back to the States
Yes, I've got to go
some
back.
point?
Yes, I've got to go back. Yeah, so I'll still be living in the States. That's the agreement that I have. And because life is there now, it's not as easy with an American-born son. So I will still be around in America, but I have to go back, and then I'll come back to South Africa again. So it's just a bit of admin stuff I got to sort out.
Is it? But for the minor league season, will you be playing there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And major league. Okay, so it's
yeah.
But it's
so
good.
It's just back and forth. But I'll be here.
Awesome.
But look, that's amazing, Dane. I want to say, a lot of people who've been on this podcast have realized their dreams. They were in a position similar to yours where it was, I need injuries. I remember chatting to Sarol here with Tim, and Sarol's like, look, Dean's there. I just need an injury. And he managed to get his way in. Senran Mutasami spoke with us last year, December. He even think that he'd get a phone from Coach Shooks. And
Lazard
is the best one, because he didn't even think he'd make it to the World Cup. And we spoke to him 2 months before the World Cup, and he's there taking wickets. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
And I wish you and your new son all the best. I hope he can come down to watch you rip it up at Willamore Park.
He definitely will.
And you never know where it goes, and I wish you all the best, and I'm so excited for you. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mpho. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dane.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Bye. Cheers, mate.
There you have it. We have a Protea back playing Division 2 cricket, which is amazing. And it's also exciting because now we know who the spinner is.
Yes. Your point, which I didn't actually realize, your point is very, very valid, because authentically it does well. If he does well, he gets picked and he goes to New Zealand, then you cannot say we can't pick Division 2 players. You can't say that. So you've just picked one. So that should then hopefully filter through over the next couple of years, where they actually don't feel scared to pick a Division 2 player. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But look, it's a masterstroke. Of all the spinners we're missing out, to get Dane back, it's a masterstroke. It really is.
Now we need fast bowlers. Now we need paces. I know Luto Supamla is not there, so I think Luto needs to have the next to reintroduce himself to all of us. But we'll talk about that on another part. This is a Dane Piedt.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. He's back from America, ready to take it on. You can catch him on the CSA YouTube channel. On Thursday, they play their first set of games. So you'll be able to catch all of that on the CSA YouTube channel. I'm giving them a free plug, but if you want to work with us, you can. But Tim, thank you very much for another episode. We'll be back probably next week. We might even have a podcast before Sunday. We might have someone from India to talk to. And enjoy the games. Enjoy the game against New Zealand. Enjoy the Proteas. The World Cup only starts after Sunday. Once you get through Sunday, it starts. And once you get through Sunday, the answer is, Tim, win 3 games in a row. It's that simple. If you get past Sunday, it's win 3 games in a row. I don't want you to lose to Afghanistan. I want you to beat Afghanistan, beat the first semi-finalist, and then cause an upset in that Narendra Modi Stadium. We'll charter you out. We'll make sure you're safe. We'll make sure the Proteas are safe. Don't worry. If the crowd starts getting angry, it's okay. Just keep beating them. But outside of that, Tim and myself, have a great week ahead. Enjoy the cricket. Enjoy everything. And remember, follow us on all the socials, on Spotify, as well as on Apple Podcasts. Outside of that, goodbye and lesale kakahiso.